News Nightcast.
The consequences of delays in our justice system for the women involved in the cases against Alphonso Mosley cannot be overstated. One of them told police he tracked her down and tried to get her to not press charges. Another woman had struggled unsuccessfully for years to conceive a child with her partner and became pregnant as a result of the rape. The Department of Law is pointing to DNA analysis as the reason for the delay in removing an alleged predator from our community. So we want to help you understand the tool used to link Mosley to the crimes. Work inside Alaska's crime lab is clean and precise. It has to be when getting it right could be the one thing between victims of crime and justice.
And it's running all the pieces of copied DNA through this capillary.
Michelle Collins is the administrator of Alaska's DNA database known as CODIS. The system holds DNA profiles from Alaska's convicted offenders and arrestees, and forensic samples generated from evidence collected at crime scenes and from victims.
The purpose of CODIS is to generate investigative leads in cases where law enforcement may not have a suspect that they're looking at. And then these peaks underneath the bars.
Collins agreed to explain CODIS to us and the lab's process. She's not speaking about any specific case, although this interview does give us insight into the several months-long gap between when Alphonso Mosley's DNA was linked to 3 rapes and his arrest after a 4th alleged attack.
The software is set up to look for what we call moderate stringency matches, which means really close matches.
Those really close matches are then looked at and analyzed by scientists in the lab using a rigid confirmation process.
If all the confirmation steps are positively affirmed or verified, we then institute a hit letter or a notification that is sent out to the law enforcement agency who submitted the case, advising them of the notification or the hit or the match in the database.
Once you've sent the letter, is there any further DNA testing that should be done with that sample, like before the case goes to trial?
So if the case is going to go to trial, one of the things that's included in our notification is that the agency should collect an evidentiary sample from that individual and submit that to us at the laboratory. And when we get that sample, we will run a DNA analysis on that. And that analysis is what then results in us issuing a scientific laboratory report where we're going to say that the profile from that person's sample matches the profile from that evidence. And we're going to issue match statistics, which are required for our DNA reports to be admissible in court.
Does that include grand jury? Do you have to have that new sample and new testing and certification before a case can go to grand jury?
No, a DNA report isn't even required for grand jury.
Okay.
They will just present the evidence they do have, and the grand jury makes the determination of whether that evidence is sufficient. So often cases don't have completed DNA analysis when they go to grand jury.
Have y'all ever had an evidentiary sample come back and it contradicts what you had sent to law enforcement?
Not in the time that I've worked here.
Collins has worked here since 2003. In 16 years, when the crime lab has sent hit letters to law enforcement, they've been sure of the science.
The big difference between those two is that the evidentiary sample is going to have a chain of custody associated with it.
A chain of custody ultimately helps the state prove the integrity of their process if and when a case is presented to a jury. Prosecutors call Mosley a serial rapist, a dangerous predator, and an opportunist who sought out vulnerable women for the last decade. While he is in custody tonight, we want to remind you he is considered innocent until proven guilty. For KTVA, I'm Daniela Rivera.
Still to come, Parkinson's, it can be a